Hey everyone, this is Joe from Material Switch Shop. In this video, I'll show you how I made these benches for our dining room. Also, since the video is quite long, I will leave timestamps below so you can skip to the part that you'd like to see. For the base, I'm going to be repurposing this ash bed frame that I made a long time ago. So, let's break it down. Now that this is all broken down, I'm going to start the milling process. First to the joiner, then to the planer. Actually, before the joiner and the planer, I'm going to rough cut some of these pieces so it's easier to joint and plane them. Alright, over at the joiner, I'm going to joint this face until it's perfectly flat. Then I'm going to use this face that I flattened as a reference against the fence to get this edge flat as well. So we have a perfect 90-degree angle between the face and then the edge. Now that I have the face and the edge jointed, I'm going to go ahead and use the planer to get the proper thickness that I need for this build. All right, here's what we have so far. I have the two stretchers. These are gonna be the top and the bottom of the legs. And these are gonna be the accent walnut pieces I'm gonna put between the two H's for the main legs. These I need to rip still, because as you can see when I cut it off from the bed frame, you still see the dominoes. So I'm gonna rip these and would have to glue them this way to hide the dominoes. After the glue cured, I took light passes with the planer to make sure the surface is perfect on these legs. And then now I'm gonna run it on my table saw using the crosscut sled to trim off one side, and then I'm gonna set up a stop block to trim it to its final pieces. So I'm actually gonna trim off the good side first, and then there are some screw holes because I'm reusing this old ash on the other side. So hopefully if I trim it on the good side, I can take a lot off the bad side, and hopefully I won't have too much screw holes to fill in later. So I made this contraption to lay out the curves on my table legs. So I was planning on using it like that, marking it, and then stacking 4 of these on the bandsaw so that they're all pretty similar, the curves. But instead of doing that, I took the time to relearn Inkscape and the program on my CNC, and I cut a template. So now I'm gonna use this template instead of doing this because I think I'll get a more consistent curve in all of the legs. Not that anyone is gonna notice except for me. I laid this down already here. Mark that curve. I'm gonna cut the spot that I X'd out just outside of that line on the bandsaw, and I'm gonna use a double sticky tape. Set this down and then flush trim the legs. This way I think it's gonna look cleaner, less cleanup, and overall it's gonna look better. After I trim it on the miter saw to the correct length, I'm gonna use the bandsaw to cut the curves, and then we're gonna get to see roughly how it's gonna look like. All right, here's the shape of our legs. I'm really pleased on how the design turned out. There's a lot of bandsaw marks, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean this on the oscillating sander. And after that, I can start gluing the top and then the bottom, and I can work on the stretchers. Now that the bench leg parts are sanded and routed, I'm gonna go ahead and use the drill press to drill the mounting holes. I will be using 2-inch 1/4-20 hardware to attach the legs to the top. I'll be using, since I'm using a washer, that's about a 5/8 washer outside diameter, I am gonna oversize it and countersink it using a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. And the 1/4-20 hardware, I will be oversizing it again, and we'll be using a 3/8 inch drill bit so to allow for seasonal wood movement. Alright, so all 4 mounting holes are drilled, as you can see right here. The ones at the end are all the way through. Then they're countersunk for that washer. And as you can see right there, plenty of wiggle room for seasonal wood movement. Now that this is done, I'm going to go ahead and assemble all the bench parts. For the bench top, I'm going to be using walnut, so let's go ahead and break down and mill some lumber. Here's a quick tip for a seamless glue up. So I'm going to be joining 3 boards for the bench top. So I'm going to label it 1, 2, and 3. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 boards at a time at the joiner and then join them and then grab the next 2 and run them together face to face in the joiner. So for example, 1 and 2, I'm going to take 1, have it face this way. I'm going to take number 2, have it face this way, run them at the joiner. After I'm done with that, I'm going to take 2, because I'm going to joint this edge of the 2 with 3 with this edge of the 3 together. So I'm going to flip 3 like so and 2 like so. Stick them together and then run them in a joiner. Before I need to do that, I'm going to lay out how I want this to be glued up. So what I usually do is I draw a triangle. It's hard to see, but it's there. I'm gonna draw a triangle and then I'm just gonna label the boards 1, 2, and 3 so I don't get confused as to what the orientation of the boards are. All right, let's go. Now that the bench top is out of the clamps, I'm going to use the track saw to cut it to its final dimension, and I'm going to use some epoxy to seal in some of the imperfections. Now that the glue has dried on the base, I went ahead and mocked it up and centered it on the top so I can mark the attachment points with this brad point bit. This brad point bit is the same diameter as the hole for the 1/4 bolt. So this is 3/8. I'm gonna use the tip of this brad point to mark where I'm going to drill the hole. I'll be using this 1/4 tap. I'll be tapping the threads, and the drill bit I'm gonna be using is undersized. So this bit is 13/64. So after I mark it with the brad point bit, I'm gonna remove the base, I'm gonna drill it, and then I'm gonna tap the threads, and I'm gonna put the base back on and make sure that everything is nice and snug. Now that everything is sanded to 220 grit, it's time for my favorite part, and that is applying the finish. I will be using Natural One Coat, which is a hard wax oil.